Hey, everybody, welcome to the Build Young, Grow Wealthy podcast. My name is Walida Cherie. Today, we're going to be breaking down episode 8, season 13 of the A&E TV series Hoarders. In this episode, Martha, who is a mother, grandmother, and retired secretary living in San Antonio, Texas, suffers from compulsive hoarding. She also suffers from diabetes and kidney disease. Today, we are going to use Martha as a case study to better understand how a person can become a hoarder. Without further ado, let's get into this. This episode begins showing Martha entering her home and being bombarded with mountains of bags and boxes that she has to navigate through in order to walk through her house. In addition to her hoarding, she is also living without proper running water because the pipes in her home burst and were never repaired. In order for Martha to get herself cleaned up, she uses wipes to clean her body and dry shampoo to wash her hair. Whenever she has to go to the restroom, she would go inside of a bucket and throw her waste outside in the yard. Martha has an adult daughter named Ileana, but she's never told her about her water situation because she didn't want her to worry. When Martha got a call saying that the hospital found a matching kidney donor, she underwent the surgery. Martha's daughter Ileana offered for her mom to come and stay with her husband, and her kids while she recovered for about 3 months. Now that you have some background history about the show, let's define what is meant by hoarding or compulsive hoarding. The show Hoarders defines compulsive hoarding as a mental disorder marked by an obsessive need to acquire and keep things, even if the items are worthless, hazardous, or unsanitary. Hoarders reports that up to 19 million Americans have a hoarding disorder. According to the Mayo Clinic, they list the following as signs and symptoms that someone is a hoarder: excessively acquiring items that are not needed or for which there's no space, persistent difficulty throwing out or parting with your things regardless of actual value, feeling the need to save these items and being upset by the thought of discarding them, building up of clutter to the point where rooms become unusable, and having a tendency toward indecisiveness, perfectionism, avoidance, procrastination, and problems with planning and organizing. Keep in mind that hoarding is different from collecting. Hoarders collect things and keep them very unorganized, whereas collectors collect things and put them on display and they are organized. So who's at risk for becoming a hoarder? The Mayo Clinic suggests that hoarding usually starts around age 11 to age 15, but it tends to get worse with age. Hoarding is more common in older adults than in younger adults. 3 risk factors that may be conclusive if someone has a hoarding disorder is number 1, personality. Many people with this disorder display indecisiveness or the inability to make their own decisions. They could also suffer because of family history, meaning they were oftentimes around people who were also hoarders, and so they developed those same habits as those other family members. Some people develop hoarding disorders after experiencing a stressful life event that they had difficulty coping with, such as the death of a loved one, divorce, eviction, or losing possessions in a fire. Now we're going to hear about how Martha and her daughter Ileana describes how they believe she became a hoarder.
I believe my mother began hoarding because of a traumatic event in her life. My guess is that it had something to do with my birth father.
A couple of years after high school, I met the father of my daughter. We dated for a while, and then I got pregnant. And that's when I found out he was married. So he lied to me because he told me he was not married. That was very hurtful. Very hurtful.
From this clip, it appears that the root cause of Martha's hoarding could be associated with depression. Depression may be deeply rooted underneath all of her clutter because she started her life with a man that she thought was going to spend the rest of her life and his life together. But instead, she found out that he was married, and that because he was married, she thought it was a good idea for her to sever all ties with him. I believe this episode of Hoarders shines a light on an issue that I believe the majority of us overlook, and that is life events may cause us to go into a deep depression that could trigger people to become a hoarder. Some people eat their way through sadness, some turn to addictions such as alcohol, drugs, or gambling, and Martha's, it was compulsive hoarding. So what kinds of items do hoarders usually hold on to? According to the International OCD Foundation, most often people hoard common possessions such as paper, especially mail and newspapers. They may also hoard things like books and clothing, containers filled with boxes, paper, and plastic bags. Usually these items may have some value, however, they hoard more than they can reasonably use. Let's hear a clip of things that Martha collects.
The majority of the stuff in my house are probably boxes. I like to collect clothes, jewelry, costume jewelry mostly. Sometimes I save up for good jewelry. Some antiques, but not very many. There's also sentimental things that belong to my mom and dad. Well, I can't get rid of that.
As you heard in the clip, Martha hoards the typical items most commonly seen in the majority of hoarders' homes. Next, we're going to talk about the effects of hoarding. Severe clutter threatens the health and safety of those living in or near the home, causing health problems, structural damage, fire, and even death. Expensive and emotionally devastating evictions or other court actions can lead to hospitalizations and sometimes even homelessness. Conflict with family members and friends who are frustrated and concerned about the state of the home and the hoarding behaviors. I previously mentioned that Martha is living with health issues and that she is living without running water to cook or bathe with. It is not known if Martha's sickness is because of her lifestyle or if it is hereditary. Additionally, Martha has experienced much conflict and concern from her family because of her hoarding condition over the years. So here's a clip from Martha's daughter on how hoarding has affected her family and her friends.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Please.
It wasn't emotionally hard for you to have Grandpa sleep in this room? That man worked for 60 plus years to sleep like a homeless person.
Wasn't.
Let me talk.
Okay.
To have water, to have air conditioning, and you don't want to let go of clothing still? If you refuse to clean this mess up, I'm
No,
sorry.
I
I don't know what you
refuse.
want from us. People don't live like this.
From this clip, her daughter Ileana specifically wants her mother to take ownership for how hoarding has caused conflict in her family. Now, the question you may be wondering if you're listening right now is, can compulsive hoarding be treated? The short answer is yes. In extreme cases, professional services that you see on this show, Hoarders, can come to clean and organize your home. They also provide a psychologist to help the victim of hoarding to learn how to let go of their clutter and to give them a plan to prevent future clutter. Here is a reaction of Martha as she entered her home for the first time after it has been free of clutter and has been organized.
Fantastic. I can wash the dishes now and I can cook. And that's fantastic.
Martha, I know that previously you had been hanging on to a lot of your father's things. Maybe there are better ways to honor your father.
Of course.
And I want to show you one now that Carolina set up.
Okay. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. His army days. The flag. Beautiful. Thank you, Carolina.
It was our pleasure.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
This show ended with a beautiful ending. I'm not sure if this show does follow-ups, but it would be helpful to us, the viewers, to see if people like Martha has been able to sustain long-term with getting rid of compulsive hoarding. So what are your thoughts on hoarding? Has this episode made you want to go through your home, discard, donate, and organize the things in your home? Are you a victim of hoarding? For further information and help on how to overcome hoarding, I will leave the links in the description box. If you are new to this podcast, welcome. Please consider subscribing for more great content. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. Please share this episode with a friend. That's all I have for now. Until next time, I will talk to you later.